Avalon Waterways, the inside story. The fascinating world of river cruising, the story of an Avalon Waterways ship. What do a jigsaw puzzle and an Avalon cruise ship have in common? Both are made up of lots of pieces that only add up to a perfect picture when every single one of the necessary components are fitted together in exactly the right way. And that's what we'd like to show you now in this video. The fascinating world of river cruising, the story of an Avalon Waterways ship. Here, you'll be able to follow the construction of a ship, from the attachment of the first plank right up to its maiden voyage, as well as looking over the shoulder of the hotel manager during a typical day's work, and getting a behind-the-scenes view of the kitchen team as they create refined and delicious dishes for their guests each and every day. In all, this film will take you to all those places on board that you would otherwise never get to see. And you'll have the opportunity to get a better idea of the sheer complexity of an Avalon ship. So come on and savor with us the fascinating world of river cruising, the story of an Avalon Waterways ship. Avalon, the inside story, a puzzle made of steel. At the beginning of this film, a comparison was made about a ship being like a jigsaw puzzle, something that needs a delicate touch to assemble carefully piece by piece. And that's how things now proceed at the shipyard in Holland. But the necessary delicate touch is provided not by sensitive fingers, but by large cranes, computer-controlled milling machines, and a great many workers who are each involved in assembling their own particular puzzles. At the very start, there is nothing but a vast single steel plate standing in the middle of a gigantic assembly hall. Hard to believe that this will eventually give rise to the shapely outline of an elegant and luxurious Avalon cruise ship. In this hall, the coming weeks will see the creation and construction of many component parts of the new ship, while prefabricated parts will also be attached to each other and to the ship itself. To ensure that everything proceeds with the minimum of delay, the ship's construction engineers have been working months in advance to draw up precise plans and assembly schedules, so that every individual component and procedure can be constructed and executed as precisely as possible. And in this case, precisely often means getting things right down to the last millimeter. The computer-controlled milling machines cut through the thick steel plates like a hot knife cutting through butter. Every curve has been precisely calculated. The data are put into the machine, and thick plates are cut accordingly without the slightest difficulty. The resulting components are carefully numbered and then added to the hull, which is now gradually beginning to take shape. After only about 8 weeks, the hull of the Avalon ship is almost complete. One can already see that the ship is divided into 3 stories. The individual cabins are beginning to be worked on, and other elements are being added to the interior. Only the event that makes a ship has yet to take place: the wedding. But that's another story. Avalon, the inside story, the wedding. With its loads well covered and not immediately recognizable to the uninitiated, the convoy now approaches. This is carrying those parts that will transform a bare hull into a proud ship. Rudders and steering gear, ship's generators, and of course, the ship's engines. Only when these have been installed in the places assigned for the purpose is this Avalon ship really a ship in the true sense. That's why one jokingly calls this process of installation the wedding. Going together means growing together. In this case, being welded together. Slowly but surely, each of the individual components is built into the ship's hull. The generators are installed, while each engine is fixed in the place reserved for it. The rudder systems and propellers are positioned in accordance with the special cavities at the bottom of the hull. Yet again, precision and know-how are the name of the game. When everything has found its final resting place on board, we can drop in on the head operator of the engine room so that he can explain to us in a bit more detail just how this elaborate and complex technology works.
Hello, my name is Attila.
My name is Attila, and I'm the chief engineer on board. My job is to provide all of the technical support that may be required, and also to supervise all technical operations on the ship. Here, I'd like to introduce you briefly to a feature of our Avalon ships that, although it remains so well hidden away that none of our guests ever get to see it, is absolutely essential, not only with respect to everyone's safety, but because without it, the ship would never move an inch. We're now in the main engine room. Here we can see just about all of the technical equipment and machinery necessary to make the ship move, along with some further equipment and devices that are vital for its day-to-day operation. These include, among other things, the diesel generators that are the source of onboard electricity, the ballast system for river navigation, and the boilers needed to provide heating and warm water. This is the air conditioning system, which ensures that the right atmospheric conditions prevail throughout the whole ship. The monitoring and adjusting of important parameters are now achieved using touchscreen technology. On board we have 3 such screens where we can keep an eye on the current situation and make any adjustments should these be necessary. The most important items necessary for the propulsion of the ship are, of course, its 2 Caterpillar main engines, each of which has an output of about 1,000 horsepower. These engines have the power needed to shift a ship weighing between about 1,600 and 2,600 tons, depending on its load. Our ships are driven by a Z-drive propulsion system comprised of 4 units that drive the propellers. This Z-drive is also very important to the steering of the vessel, as it has a rotating pod that allows rapid changes in thrust direction. In fact, this system means that Avalon cruise ships do not have a rudder in the conventional sense. All of this awesome power and technology that is ready and available at the turn of a switch is there to ensure that you can enjoy the very best of Europe's loveliest and most fascinating waterways during a cruise on your Avalon ship. Avalon, the inside story. The launch. It's about 1 o'clock in the morning. The countdown has started. Only in a few hours in the early morning light, when the tide is going in the right direction, can the ship be rolled onto the pontoon ship that has already been securely moored in the water. Yes, you heard it right. The ship is going to be rolled. But how are wheels going to be placed under this vast steel giant? This is where we need the help of a specialist company, whose technical expertise is such that it is able to raise the hull of the ship in such a way that wheels can be attached to it so securely and precisely that the ship can then be rolled out of the assembly hall. It's not exactly a trifling matter to lift about 1,300 tons of dead weight about 5 feet or 1.5 meters into the air, and then roll it barely half an inch or a centimeter at a time out of the hall. The first step is to insert a massive hydraulic lifting device under the hull of the ship. With painstaking care, and one tiny step at a time, this is going to raise the new Avalon Tapestry 2 from the floor. Slowly but surely, though, the distance between the floor and the ship's keel reaches a point at which it's possible to roll the wheel construction under the ship.
Looking rather like the legs of a centipede, the mobile stand is pushed under the ship. While now careful attention has to be paid to ensure that the positioning of the supports is absolutely optimal, a great deal of work is proceeding apace behind the ship. As soon as will be the case in just a few minutes, the ship begins to roll, it's crucial that the support construction in the hull is absolutely perfectly aligned with the pontoon ship, so that at no point the Avalon Tapestry 2 might begin to tilt to the slightest degree. Now the great moment has finally arrived. Literally centimetre by centimetre, inch by inch, the ship begins slowly to make its way out of the hull. Everything is going just the way the specialists were certain that it would. But now, things are grinding to a halt. No, not because of some unexpected problem. Rather, this is the point at which the ship has to roll off the support construction and onto the pontoon ship. For everyone present, this is the tensest moment of all. Will the construction stand up to the strain? And above all, have the engineers got their calculations right, so that the Avalon ship won't end up stranded on the wooden beam between the assembly hall and the pontoon ship? In fact, there are barely a few centimetres of space between the hull and the support construction. There's literally no room for mistakes. But the experts seem to have done a good job. Things have worked out perfectly, and the ship's transfer to the pontoon ship has gone according to plan. In the first light of dawn, Avalon Tapestry has left the assembly hall and is on its way. Just in time. While on the subject of good planning, surely the ship seems to be missing something. Quite right, the whole front section. But don't worry, it hasn't been forgotten. The engineers in charge of constructing the ship have decided that it would be better to have the nose section with the wheelhouse and reception assembled at a different shipyard that is specialized in making such parts. Here you can see the front section being prepared for the trip to meet its other half. This part also has to be transferred onto a pontoon ship. And then this and the main section of the ship will be taken to a third shipyard, where they'll be welded together into an indivisible whole. Avalon, the inside story, put to the acid test. Even while work is still proceeding apace inside the new ship, the latest addition to the Avalon fleet has already embarked on a major test voyage. Only when every technical and constructional criterion has been fully met will the ship receive those certificates required before it's permitted to take you aboard one of its many exclusive Avalon River cruises. For this purpose, a whole team of experts and specialists have to come on board and check literally every nut and bolt to ensure that the ship is equipped to deal with every imaginable situation. And now, at last, the journey can begin. Slowly, the new ship begins its first major voyage that will actually last almost 10 hours. At this point, even the most experienced engineers and technicians can hardly conceal their tension and excitement. Will everything work properly? Will each of the countless constructional elements do what they're supposed to do? Will the scheduled special maneuvers go according to plan? If the test is not passed with flying colors, all existing plans will suddenly be up in the air. The adding of the finishing touches, the delivery of the new ship, its official launch and maiden voyage with the first Avalon guests on board. The most important man on board today is the technical consultant of the world-renowned Lloyd's Register Group Limited. This company embraces the oldest worldwide operating ships certification organization, whose Rules for Ships is a generally accepted body of regulations governing the structure and safety of the various types of ship constructions. Following a precisely defined checklist, each aspect and every device necessary for the safe operation of the ship is going to be meticulously examined. Up to now, everything seems to be going well. All of the devices checked so far have been found to be working faultlessly. Slowly but surely, it's time to get down to the nitty-gritty. 3 experts, working independently of one another, are checking every vibration, rattle and noise to be heard inside the ship. Whether it be in the suites, the engine room, the kitchen, and even in the wheelhouse itself, the strict norms regarding sounds and vibrations may not be exceeded anywhere in the ship. And then it's thumbs up here too. The test that follows simulates a situation that we hope and are sure that no guest will ever have to experience on board. While traveling at full speed ahead, the ship is abruptly turned in one direction, then in the opposite direction, and back again. This maneuver is designed to test whether the Avalon ship can still be maneuvered safely, even when the rudder and engine are not working properly. The atmosphere among the people on board is again beginning to tingle with tension, because there's a real danger that the ship might literally lose its bearings and become impossible to steer. All other work on the ship is now brought to a standstill. One last look around to check that everything is ready and that it's safe to begin the maneuver. And then comes the moment of truth. If a ship really had to turn at this speed during a cruise, it's probable that the evening meal afterward would have to be served on paper plates, because just about all of the crockery would have been smashed to smithereens. Just as planned, the almost 440-foot-long or 135-meter-long hull makes its abrupt turns, yet still holds to its anticipated course. The rudder system and the engines also perform just as they should. Couldn't be better. A few more checks and tests later, and our new Avalon ship is able to return to its Dutch shipyard safe and sound. In the next few weeks, all of the test results will be carefully evaluated by a team of experts. If the outcome is as expected, then this ship, just like every single one of its Avalon predecessors, will receive the crucial certification that it has been constructed in such a way that meets the very highest internationally recognized technical and safety specifications for a passenger ship.
Avalon Waterways, the inside story. If 1,000 designers start to work. Tapestry 2 has now returned to the construction yard where everything began. Seen from the outside, it's already a fine-looking new ship. But now the time has come to transform its inner workings and appearance to meet the same uncompromisingly high standards. At any given moment, as many as 50 people may be at work within the ship's hull. Their activities range from installing piping and heating systems in each of the suites, to the placement and calibration of the many high-tech devices and features necessary to fulfill Avalon's insistence on the highest standards with respect to the construction, comfort level and safety of their ships. As many features of the interior require genuine craftsmanship if they're to meet the exacting standards of Avalon's design experts. Electricians, carpenters, plumbers, fitters, tile layers, painters and decorators, floorers, interior designers, and many other specialists all make their contribution to lending the new ship its distinctive appearance inside. Let's hear what one of these craftsmen has to say about the work on board. Hello, my name is Matthias, and my highly qualified team and myself are responsible for the complete IT infrastructure of the entire Avalon fleet across Europe. After all the steelwork is done, the cable work begins. We need at least 8 kilometers of cable just for the IT network. Every TV in the cabins and the public areas needs its own network connection. Even more network connections are needed for all the WLAN hotspots, the servers, the computers, printers, and the copy machines on board. In addition, 20 kilometers of cable needs to be laid for the onboard security systems, the fire detection, the silent alarm, and the telephone system. Each ship has 2 antennas on the front, one for the TV and one for the internet. Both antennas are fully automatic, self-tracking, gyro-stabilized systems. This unique operating system allows uninterrupted viewing of your favorite TV channels, movies, sports, and broadband communication. Did you know that there's a distance of 22,300 miles between the antenna of a ship and the satellite? Let's say you're on board doing an exciting river cruise right now, and you'd like to get more information about the city you're going to visit next. When you open the Google website, this request will be sent from the ship up to the satellite, from the satellite to the Earth station, Frankfurt, Germany, and from the Earth station to the internet. After that, the answer of your request goes all the same way back to your computer, which makes its total round trip of more than 90,000 miles. In comparison, the diameter of the Earth is only 8,000 miles. What a long way, right? But compared to ocean liners, river cruise ships are also able to use mobile networks to go online, because they're much faster than VSAT connections. Of course, it is one of our main goals to provide Avalon's valued guests with the best and fastest internet connections during their entire cruise. But one can imagine that this can be sometimes challenging, since a ship is not dragging along an extra cable in the back all the time. It's in the nature of things that problems occur on board occasionally. As we know, all ships are constantly cruising along Europe, and these problems need to be resolved as soon as possible. Thanks to our excellent monitoring system, CNET is able to work on 90% of these matters remotely, which means we can connect with the ships via our data center. Wherever we are, we have the right tools on each of our computers to analyze and check all arising issues. If necessary, we'll give instructions to one of the crew over the phone, in order to make your river cruise with Avalon a wonderful experience technology-wise from day one. On board every Avalon ship, one factor is of paramount importance: complete individuality. That's why no ship in the Avalon fleet has the same interior as any other. Just how crucial this point is within the company philosophy can be seen from the fact that all guests get a questionnaire in which they can bring in their ideas of a better interior design of the ships. Just as the members of the governing board of the firm are personally involved in the decisions relating to the interior design and furnishings, this painstaking attention to even the smallest detail means that absolutely nothing is left to chance. There can be no doubt that Avalon's designers know how to create an interior with universal appeal. Rather than being off-the-peg constructions, each one is unique and special, as its guests immediately discover, which is why each ship soon becomes everyone's home from home. Avalon Waterways, the inside story. An Avalon ship is being taken for a ride. Avalon ships are built for the purpose of allowing their passengers to enjoy fascinating vacations, cruising just about all of the navigable rivers of Europe. However, the following story is about something completely different, because in this case, the Avalon ship itself is the passenger. The star of this episode is a ship that you've already come to know quite well, the Avalon Tapestry 2. The ship was constructed in a shipbuilding yard in the Netherlands and is now waiting to be officially launched, and then to be made spick and span to receive its first guests. All well and good, if it weren't for just a little problem. You see, the first guests will soon be waiting for it on the Seine in France, but at the moment, Tapestry 2 is moored on the Waal in Holland. As there is no suitable waterway linking Holland and northern France, there is only one possible way for Tapestry 2 to get from where it is to where it needs to be, via the open sea. Which makes that little problem into one heck of a big problem. Because Tapestry 2 may be a beautiful state-of-the-art river cruise ship, but its design makes it utterly unsuitable for sea voyages. So, what has to be done? Well, one has to find a company that specializes in such matters, and then commission them to somehow transport Tapestry 2 over the ocean to France. In fact, this is possible using a so-called dock ship that is big and strong enough to take our river cruiser on board, as it were. Just how this is done, you'll be able to see in the next few minutes. Now it's time to cast off for the last time from its shipyard in Holland. Tapestry 2 is now leaving its place of birth for good, because the Royal Dock Sea is already waiting for its next load in the harbour of Rotterdam. The gigantic tailgate of this ship is closed at the moment. However, the procedure that is going to make what might seem an impossibility into very much a reality is scheduled to begin very early in the morning. Slowly but surely, the Royal Dock Sea begins to sink deeper and deeper into the water. This is made possible by the enormous ballast tanks at the stern of the ship, which are now being filled with water. Don't worry, the ship isn't going to sink. The aim is to increase its water displacement, so that more of the hull is underwater, with the result that the difference in elevation between the ship's underside or floor and the water level is at least 2.5 meters, or somewhat over 10 feet. Only when this is the case can Tapestry 2 slowly enter the dock ship using its own engine power. The parking procedure in the dock ship demands extreme precision. In fact, everything has to fit to the last centimeter once Tapestry 2 is in place, and while steel cables are being attached to provisionally stabilize our cruise ship, pumps on the Royal Dock Sea are already emptying the ballast tanks of water. After all, there's not a moment to be wasted before the trip begins. This is the point at which the crew has to click into action. Steel supports are now being welded onto Tapestry 2. Exactly why this is necessary is something we'll come to later on. The preparations for the upcoming voyage continue flat out and without a break well into the following night. Because next morning, the journey has to begin. And Royal Dock Sea is now ready to leave Europe's largest port with its precious cargo. At the Hook of Holland, the point where the Rhine officially joins the North Sea, our two ships now sail off into the open sea. The voyage from here to Le Havre at the mouth of the Seine is about 500 nautical miles and will take Royal Dock Sea about 30 hours to complete. The weather is perfect and everything is proceeding without the slightest hitch. It's like a sea cruise you might see in a picture book. Next morning, the captain is still able to report that all is well and the sea is really calm. Just what he means by that, you can see for yourself. It's now evident just why Tapestry 2 had to be welded firmly onto the stern of Royal Dock Sea. Even though the sea is choppy to say the least, Tapestry 2 is perfectly stable and remains motionless in the rear section of its carrier ship. If one were foolhardy enough to attempt this sea trip with a river cruiser, it's quite possible that a swell like this could literally cause the ship to break up. Approaching Le Havre, the sea is so calm that the pilot, needed to enter the harbour, has to be brought on board by helicopter. The mode of his arrival on the ship is something of a sight in itself. Not a moment too soon, Royal Dock Sea reaches the entrance to the harbour of Le Havre. which also marks the point of confluence of the River Seine in the English Channel, Atlantic Ocean. Now it's necessary to repeat the procedure already seen in Rotterdam, but this time in reverse. Within an hour, Tapestry 2 is afloat again, but this time on a river that will be its home in the years to come, on its first voyage along the Seine. From now on, its job will be to present its many Avalon passengers all of the exciting landscapes and sights that are waiting to be enjoyed between Paris and the Normandy coast. Avalon Waterways, the inside story. Finale. All of the pieces of the puzzle have now been assembled, and our story about an Avalon cruise ship has reached its last page. As you've been able to see, both of them really are made up of many interlocking pieces that, when they're all correctly arranged, add up to a perfect and complete picture. Which is exactly what we wanted to show you in this video. The fascinating world of river cruising, the story of an Avalon Waterways ship.